So
Great.
it is 2:30, and I know people are just logging in, but I'd like to thank everybody for joining us at Coldwell Banker from literally around the world. Thank you guys for tuning in. We have quite the treat today. Jason, thank you for lining this up today.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Peter. And I'm excited to have Mike Ferry on today. For those of you who don't know Mike Ferry, you probably just started in the business. And Mike, correct me, but 45 years of coaching. He's one of the premier real estate coaches, not just in the US, but around the world. We are extremely fortunate to have Mike here today, and a kind of a Q&A and kind of go through these things. He was kind enough to agree to answer some questions, both questions that our agents are asking on a daily basis, and kind of give some 45 years worth of experience and knowledge back to us. So Mike, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. First of all, anytime I'm with Coldwell Banker, I'm excited because I go so far back with Coldwell Banker. I was involved with a company called Forrest E. Olson, which was the founding company that Coldwell Banker purchased back in the 60s. So my history with your great company goes a long way. So it's nice to be with Coldwell Banker today. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here. And we'll go ahead and kick it off. And if we have time in the end, we can maybe do some Q&A. But, probably the top question that we have out there is realtors asking, should I expect a substantial decline in my business as it relates to COVID-19 if this continues for a long period? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I don't think, Jason, this is going to continue for a long time. I think that everybody's working to do all the right things for this particular disease to be gone. It's going to last longer than we all thought, no question, the social distancing, etc. But I'm very, very adamant about this. I think in terms of real estate production, worst in the month of April that we're going to see from this disease. January, February were pretty strong. First 2 weeks of March were okay, and then it kind of fell down in the last 2 weeks of March, and then it really came to a head, the seriousness in April. So I think we've seen the worst. But here's the challenge we face. We probably have still today too many real estate agents for the number of transactions that we do on a national level. And, unfortunately, I know a lot of the Coldwell Banker brokers that I work with are, Peter, yourself, Jason, you're always doing something to keep your agents active. But most agents are not active, whether it be Coldwell Banker or any other one of the major companies. They're hiding. They're afraid to, participate. So those people are going to have a problem. I mean, you can't go 2 months without being involved and expect to come out of this thing shining. So what I guess the biggest message I can give everybody is this: worst case scenario, Jason, in the US this year, we'll have 4 million transactions. We'll probably 4.5 million realistically. 4 million transactions, as you and I know, is 8 million commission checks will be distributed to professional real estate agents. So the opportunity for an agent today is better than ever. I guess the best example, Bob Hamrick is a good customer of mine here in Las Vegas, Coldwell Banker Premier. And it's interesting because 15,000 agents in what is a relatively small city of Las Vegas. Maybe 1,000 agents are working every day, maybe 1,000. So most people are out working. So per person productivity for those working should improve as this thing starts to go away. It comes down to 3 words. It comes down to their ability to maintain a strong mindset. It comes down to their ethics in terms of how they choose to work. And it comes down to their skills. And if they have good skills and they have a good work ethic and their mindset is reasonably strong, they're going to be okay. Now, it's our job, yours and mine, and Peter's and all the leadership, to keep reassuring them it's going to be okay. Because it's going to be okay. There's no question about it.
No, thanks. In fact, that leads me into another question. You talked about mindset. Obviously, with offices closed, a lot of people working from home right now. A question becomes, what type of schedule do I keep? Because obviously, working from home, there can be distractions. Talk to me about working from home, scheduling, mindset.
What's interesting is this question, because of our 2 months now of home isolation for most of the country, And I have a little advantage. As you mentioned, we operate also in Europe and in Russia. Europe, of course, Italy, which is our headquarters, was hit with this back in November and December. So they've been home isolated for 3 or 4 months. So schedule becomes a major factor. But here's what I want to share, and I think the agents will smile. A real estate office is a safe haven for a real estate person to hang out. Nice headquarters, nice locations, nice people, management, assistants, staff, computers. Starbucks is next door. I mean, how can you beat being in a real estate office? And you really don't have to do anything and still be in the office, because you can look like you're an active real estate agent. At home, all of our little crazinesses are exposed because we're by ourselves. So the challenge we have now is, what do we do? So you're going to love how I answer this. I'm telling every real estate person that has family at home with them, 8:30, 8:45, have a family sales meeting. Invite the husband and the kids, or the wife and the kids, and then just simply say, I need 1 hour from 9 to 10 to do my job in complete silence. I need to make sure that I can do my job. I focus. My job is to produce for the family. Then at 10 o'clock, 30-minute break, help the children, help your spouse, take care of your house, etc. 11 o'clock, 1 hour again. So I'm asking agents to, Jason, do that 3 times a day. Now, you have a pretty good sized sales force out in what we call the Victorville Valley. How many total salespeople now in the company do you have?
About 150.
Can you imagine if all 150 worked 3 hours a day? The production of the company would double, because it's a business where they can look like they're working and not do anything, and that's just the nature of our industry. So I'm asking schedule-wise 3 1-hour segments a day, and then take the break to make sure the household, the children, the schoolwork, your spouse, everything is going to be okay. It's a tough schedule, but that's what they have to follow.
Yeah, it's good advice. I guess switch gears a little bit. I get calls from our agents, and it's about deals that are currently in place. Buyers concerned that prices may drop, and looking to us as experts. And how would you respond? With there's fear. Now, mind you, we come out of the Great Recession. It's in the rearview mirror. It's 10 years ago, but we all have a little burning sensation in the back of our mind. God forbid this will happen again.
Sure.
And so the question we get is, do you anticipate prices dropping? And I'd love to hear your response on that.
Well, Peter and I've known each other a long time. Corey is a 35-year friend of my wife and mine, a customer of ours. We've only recently met through Tony Smith, and that was a wonderful thing for us to be able to meet you through Tony. I will tell you that for the first time in my life, an inventory shortage is to our advantage, because the inventory shortage is what stabilizes prices. It goes back to basic economics. It goes back to supply and demand. In 2009, everything in the world was for sale, so the prices fell through the floor. We lost 60% of our equities in our homes, and as a result, it was a disaster for real estate. But this is a whole different environment we're in today. I was on a phone call this morning with a large company of 1,500 agents in Atlanta. And they presently in Atlanta, they have a 5-week supply of inventory for that entire city. Well, that's almost like a day's worth of inventory. It's a disaster. So our lack of inventory is a biggest advantage to the agents. Those that take listings, it's a huge advantage because everything sells quick. But second, the lack of inventory is advantageous because it helps us get a buyer to make a decision faster. And a lack of inventory is a huge advantage to a seller because the demand for their home is more. So, for the first time in probably most of our lives, a lack of inventory actually is an advantage. So I want to share something. I grew up in Orange County. I went to 12 years of Catholic school. And I'm the first to admit I was not a good student. I mean, my middle name is David. I got all D's. So I thought they were just recognizing my name on my report card. Until my junior year, I took a class in economics and I got an A because I liked it. It was intriguing to me. Well, that's where I understood that when there is a big supply of anything, prices fall. We don't have a big supply. And when there's no supply, prices go up. How about this example? Toilet paper. I mean, who would have ever thought in the US we would have a run on toilet paper? But, you know, when the supply is down, the demand goes up. So I want to reassure all of the great agents at CB that we don't have to worry about prices, okay? Unless something else changes in the future that we can't see today. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah, no, great. And, you know, of course, that leads to, you know, clients that are nervous. You know, a lot of bad press out there. Unfortunately, some people get glued to the television and they have not I say desire, but, you know, a thought that they should wait this out just to see what happens. And I think that also ties into what you mentioned about a housing shortage.
Sure. Well, you know, you and I both know that the most important thing for a buyer or seller in relationship to the agent is the motivation of the buyer and seller. So if the motivation is there, and we find that out through the pre-qualifying process, the motivation is there, they're in the right now bucket over here. Okay, we got to pay attention to those people because there's commission checks and lives at stake. But it's the ones that are in bucket B, which are the ones that are giving us the excuse of the day, which is, we want to wait, Jason, until this virus passes. But we have to understand that people by nature have excuses for everything. And the newest one is we're waiting for the virus. But here's what I'm telling the agents today. And I saw Corey Shepard is on the call, and I'm waving to Corey because he's a 30-year friend of mine, and nice to see his name on the call. But Corey, when I say what I'm going to say next, Corey and Peter and Tony Smith will probably go, whoa, are you sure Mike Ferry is not possessed? Boy, this is weird what he's saying today. I want them to keep all those leads that are people that want to do something in the future. And I want them to follow up every 7 to 10 days. And I want them to communicate, market updates, neighborhood reports, market statistics, because these people, when the floodgate opens, Jason, they're going to come back and buy a home and list their home with your agents.
Absolutely.
But they're going to pick the agent they've got the best rapport and relationship with. And that will be the agent that gives them the best information for the next 30, 60, 90 days. So the communication. Now, I'm going to say something else. And again, I know Peter will smile when I say this because we've known each other a long time. I am saying to agents today, the 3 most important words: empathy, kindness, and understanding in dealing with the prospect. We've got to have the empathy to understand that they are afraid, because this disease is different. I had a broker last week say to me the following: when have we ever in our lives, Jason, walked outside, touched something, and potentially got sick? It's never been around. We've never experienced that. Yeah. So, you know, it's a disease we can't see, we can't feel, we can't touch, we can't smell. So everybody is super cautious. You know, I mean, I was in the doctor's office this morning for a couple of hours. You know, the doctors are wearing masks. I'm wearing a mask. Everybody's wearing masks. We're wearing rubber gloves. You know, I felt like a bank robber walking into the doctor's office, for goodness sakes. It's a different world. So our job with all these leads that are not going to do something now is to actually build rapport with them. And if we do that, when the floodgate opens, they're going to come back to the agent they feel the most comfortable with. Thank you. I'm glad you asked that. That's an important question.
So Mike, all that being said, it could be hard to not fall into a mental slump, or it's probably even harder to get out of that mental slump when you should be doing what you need to be doing to be successful. What would you have for those people that are experiencing that kind of roadblock right now?
Well, first of all, that's normal. You know, it's like any slump that we would experience. You know, I tell agents every day, when an agent senses or recognizes they're in a little bit of a production slump, obviously the first question is, when did it start? Second question, what was the cause? Usually it's the transaction fell out, they lost a listing, etc., that caused it. Then I ask the third question is, how long do you want to continue in the slump? And they'll always say the same thing: I want it to end today. Then I'll say, good, what will you do today to get out of it? Because a big part of what we do today, Peter, is a mindset issue. You know, Peter's heard me say this in the past. Real estate is 50% mindset, 50% skills, and 50% activity. And then, you know, the smart people say, well, that's 150%. That's what it takes to make a lot of money in real estate. It takes 150%. But today, it's 90% mindset. because of all the circumstances we're dealing with. So, Peter, I'm going to say to everybody, you take 2 or 3 15-minute mindset breaks a day. You take a good book, you sit down at your home office, you read 5 or 6, 7 pages of inspiration. Take your iPad, you go online and you listen to a Tony Robbins and Brian Tracy and Darren Hardy's and Earl Nightingale's 10 or 15 minutes, because you've got to shock yourself back into taking action again, because the world is so negative. It was a great question. I hope that my response helps somebody a little bit.
Mike, we have the Department of Real Estate, we have the California Association of Realtors, we have our counties, our cities, everyone constantly, almost hourly telling us about social distancing. The rules are changing almost minute by minute. So, the big question comes, how do I prospect? Who should I be prospecting to? Should I change my prospecting with social distancing in mind? I know that's a zinger. A lot of
Well, it's funny. I had an email yesterday from an agent, I think it was in Louisiana, and the agent said, I was at, I think it used to be called the Elite Retreat, the CB used to do 20 years ago. And it was a meeting they would have once a year for all their top agents, and I was the guest speaker. And I'll never forget, because I had a little panel of top Coldwell Banker agents that were clients on, and I said, what is the difference between you and most people in real estate? And they all said at the same time, we prospect. Because you and I both know that if agents do talk to people, they're going to win, okay? And I always use the example, Jason, and you've never seen me do this, but I say to an agent, knock on a door, person says, hello, you don't want to sell your home, do you? And if you say that enough times, somebody's going to say, yes, I do, come on in. And it's a shock to the system, but you got to talk to people. So I'm telling agents today, first, past clients, vitally important that they stay every 30, 45 days in touch with their past clients, because they are the people that trust your agents the most. Second, centers of influence, because that is your future referral sources, okay? Be the calming force. Keep them informed as to what's going in the market. But third, here's the fun one. This little cell phone in February was the enemy of a real estate person. You and I, Peter would say, get on the phone. I don't like calling people. I don't like talking to people. I don't want to bother people. I don't want people calling me at home. Well, today, everybody's at home and they all answer their phone because they want somebody to talk to. So today, the just listed, just sold phone call is probably the most important, and I'll tell you why. Sign calls are always a vital part. 22% of all the prospects that we meet come off sign calls. We don't get sign calls today because people aren't driving around. A couple drive out of their home on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock to go to the shopping center, and they see a Coldwell Banker sign on the neighbor's conversation in the car is always the same. I'll bet our home is nicer than theirs. I'll bet we can get more than they get. I wonder where they're moving to. That conversation doesn't exist today. So what I want agents to do is to now, for the first time maybe in their lives, call 15 to 20 people around every listing, every sale that the company has, because they're going to be engaging people that want information about what's going on in the neighborhood. So past clients, centers of influence, just as the just sold, and then the easiest one of all is the for sale by owner, because they rely on traffic, people seeing their sign. There's no traffic today, okay? If you can picture Las Vegas, because you and I are probably at the most 2 hours apart where you live and where I live, the Las Vegas Strip, they have bicycle tours 3 times a day up and down the street. There's no cars. So, we're in a different world today. So if they will call for sale by owners, they're going to get a good response because they're not getting any activity. So I think whatever you and I can say to them, they've got to be talking to people to make their business run. Nobody likes me for that conversation, but I'm glad you asked it, okay?
Well, it kind of segues into another question I have. Thank you. We switched to a virtual industry almost overnight 8 weeks ago for us versus the traditional face-to-face relationship we have with our clients. What do you think this means for the future?
I think it is our future. You know, I got so disgusted the last couple of years listening to all the great people talking about all the disruptors in real estate, you know, the disruptors of this and disruptors of that. I'm going, give me a break. It's not disruptions, it's progress. You know, our industry, inch by inch, moves forward. It takes decades sometimes to make progress, but it is progress. However, the virtual is a disruption because now it's upfront, close, and personal. You and I, we can't hide anything in this conversation because you're looking directly at me and I'm looking directly at you. So, you know, it's a whole different medium. What we have to understand is the biggest time saver we've ever been offered. It's the most highest level of efficiency. Saturday morning, 10 o'clock, Tony Smith has a buyer coming in. He's picked out 3, 4, 5, 6 homes to show them. They're pre-qualified, pre-approved. He's ready. They come in, and then Tony will look at the buyer and say, I'm anxious to spend as much time today as necessary to help you find the home of your dreams. We may be together 4 or 5 hours. Or what I can do is virtually show you all the homes in about 15, 20 minutes. And then we can select the 1 or 2 that's best for you. Which would you prefer? They're going to pick save the time. Fallacy of real estate. Real estate agents believe the public wants to spend time with them. And let me help you with that. They don't, okay? Because they have a life to live. So this important virtual presentation is the name of the game for speed and efficiency. However, if they don't learn how to be on camera, they're never going to succeed. I mean, and you have to learn. So I'm telling agents today, Jason, instead of role-playing and practicing with somebody else on the phone or in the office, a listing presentation, practice virtually. Get used to seeing yourself on camera because it's frightening when you first start, okay? It's not the thing that you thought everybody thinks they're a movie star until the camera's on, okay? I've done 103 of these virtual seminars since March 15th, all over North America. The first couple of these I said to my wife, I need a makeup artist and quick. And she goes, why? I said, honey, I'm 75 years old, for God's sakes. Gray hair, my 3 chins, I've got wrinkles everywhere. She said, grow up. And I just continued. So, you know, learning how to present. I talked to an agent, I think it was Monday afternoon, Monique Walker in Scottsdale. 3 listings taken in one afternoon in about less than an hour, all done virtually. The entire presentation, getting the contract signed, DocuSign for signatures. It would have taken her 7-8 hours to do those if she did them live. So hopefully the agents will pay attention to you and I and Peter and start moving towards this virtual world because it's here to stay.
Okay, embracing it.
Oh, you got to. Absolutely. That's the right word. Thank you.
So I don't mean to pick on the media, but I've had probably the best week in the last 8 weeks. I actually haven't watched any news. So I actually have to ask friends that if the world is still turning, because in my world it's still good. But you know, the problem is people are watching the media and of course blood and guts sells at 6 p.m. news, and they're thinking this is the end of the world. I mean, we're never going to be able to have a new good norm, or business will never resume. So now I'm going to pick on you a little bit. 45 years in the business, you've seen maybe 1, maybe 2 recessions, maybe 3. So, I mean, yes, just a few. So how does this compare? I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Is it the end of the world?
Well, really, you know, growing up in Garden Grove, so maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours from where you folks are living, and just north of where Peter and his company is, Garden Grove, California. I was selling real estate when I was 21, 22, and the interest rates in 1972 were 18.5% for a 30-year fixed loan for a buyer. It was 18 point, that was for FHA, okay? And then in 73, they went to 20%. And, you know, we all just accepted the fact that the world was going to come to an end and we're going to do the last deal before it ends. 1987, Black Monday, the stock market crash, which some of you will recall. It was the greatest stock market dip in the history of the country. We thought the world had ended. I think personally, Jason, the worst day in American history was 9/11. when those twin towers fell, the destruction, the death that took place, I mean, it was horrifying. And we really all thought the world was coming to an end. I don't think I've shared this. I think Corey probably knows this. My son, Tom, who at that time was still with my company, and Michelle, were doing a seminar 1 block from the Twin Towers in Manhattan when those planes hit. They were working for the Prudential, a great broker named Marsha Rand. And they called me, and I mean, they were in a state of shock. So I got them in a car and got them out of town, fortunately, within virtually 30 minutes. That was a terrifying moment for the entire world, much less the East Coast and the US. We lived through it. But then, of course, as you mentioned, 2007 to 2012, the Great Recession worldwide. We lived through it. My son Matthew has an expression, Jason, that I think is important. And he says, "This too shall pass." See, the greatest strength that we have in the American people is resiliency. You know, we get knocked down, we get tripped, we get kicked, we get up and we fight. And we get back what we're supposed to have. And I believe the economy will recover 100% and become better than it was in the past. Our modes of communication are going to change and become faster and better. Yeah, it may be 2 months, 3 months, 4 months down the road before we can start to enjoy. Watch, folks, how would you like to live in Venezuela today? Okay.
Good point.
I mean, how would you like to live in Cuba today? And it's a beautiful island, but it's not the place for us. Okay. So I'm hoping everybody understands that we've seen worse, and here's the best news. We'll see worse again in the future. I told my wife, and Corey's going to smile when I say this, I told Sabrina a couple of days ago that I really would like to do this for 15 more years. And that will take me to age 90, which means, because that means I'm going to see 2 more big real estate recessions, okay, before I quit. So this is just a prep and a warm up for the next one. So I'm excited.
That's great. It's mindset, positivity.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Hey, Peter, you got a question?
Yeah. Hey, Mike. So you mentioned that we lived through 2008, 2009. And at the risk of sounding too confident right now, I think that right now is a crazy opportunity for all of us to get out there and win market share, to learn this different way of communicating, to really differentiate ourselves coming out of this thing.
Yes. I don't think there's any question that this may be for a broker, a sales manager, an agent that is thinking forward. This may be one of the best opportunities I've ever experienced. I mean, because the inventory is what is securing the opportunity. Therefore, all inventory is almost instant gold in a commission check. And the fact that most people, Peter, as you and I know, are panicking even today. I mean, we've been at this for 7 weeks. Guess what? It's here. To panic at this point really shows a lack of intelligence, and I hope they're offended, but it shows a lack of intelligence. I mean, it's with us, it's here, it's part of our life. So if most people are hiding and you and I are outside thinking about what we can do, I mean, I'm telling you, in Las Vegas, the agents that are active are doing more deals. I interviewed a person Monday afternoon in San Jose, Erica. She did 16 deals in the month of April, residential resales. They're the worst market in history. And I said, how did the rest of the office do? She said, well, there's 100 agents. They did 4. And she did 16. So it's here more than anything else. So thank you for sharing that thought. It's very important.
I get a weird excitement with all the chaos and all the fear. It kind of excites me and says, well, okay, well, if everyone's feeling that way, let's go this way and see how we can capitalize on that fear. I don't know if that's twisted or not, but it excites me.
Well, it's, Earl Nightingale used to refer to what he called the 180-degree theory. If everybody's going to the left, go to the right. There's no competition, nobody competing against you, okay? Now, you say, well, it could be risky. Well, if you're going to get ahead, you're going to take a risk. Stopping at a for sale by owner is a risk because they may slam the door. But you can't get the listing if you don't stop. So my joke has always been, when the average agent sees a for sale by owner sign, they accelerate to get out of the neighborhood quick. Well, the good ones will stop. So I agree with you, Peter. It's a great opportunity for all of us, no question.
So you just talked about a office that had 100 agents do 4 deals and 1 agent do 16. So, you know, obviously there's agents out there asking, you know, should I adjust my business plan? Should I expect less from the rest of the year? Obviously some agents aren't. I mean, what would you say to that?
You know, it's interesting because January and February were pretty strong nationwide. First 2 weeks of March were still okay. The last 2 weeks of March took it, and in April it fell apart. So yes, that's behind us now. That's what we have to recognize. So what I'm telling agents to do is they have an annual business plan, but now I want to break it down and be very specific in 1 to 2 week to 3 week plans for what they're going to do. But see, the truth is, you know, I'm like you and I'm like Peter. I'm the eternal optimist. For goodness sakes, never lower your expectations. Raise your standards. You know, put a little pressure on yourself to perform. Most people aren't. What a wonderful time to learn about some of the weaknesses you have as a salesperson, because you have the time in home isolation to study and research and learn how to do it better. I mean, this is a great time to raise the standards for individuals. And I think now this is where we say, okay, your goal was to do 10 deals for the year. You've done 4. Let's do a minimum of 10 more, or let's do 15 more. So let's push the standards higher by improving the quality of what we do. I don't believe in lowering my expectations. I won't do that at all.
No, I agree. Totally agree. You talked quite a bit today about mindset, and which I think is absolutely key to success and then getting through this. How do you keep fear out of your own mindset?
Well, you said something 5 minutes ago, and if I could have reached through and given you a high five, I would have done it, because I felt what you said was that important, Jason. I haven't watched the news on TV in 45 years. I have no idea what goes on in the world most of the time. And people criticize me all the time, but you know, I'm 75 years old and I'm happy and I'm excited about whatever future I get to have. And I'm not negative because I don't let that stuff into my head. So I don't watch the news. I don't read the newspaper. You know, traveling every day for 45 years, you get on an airplane, the first thing they hand you is a newspaper, and I hand it back. And they'll always say, well, don't you want to see the newspaper? No. Flight attendant will say, what do you want to, what? You don't want to see, how come you don't want to see the newspaper? Because there's no good news. I'd rather just read a book that I always have with me that is positive and inspiring. So I believe that controlling what goes in, my wife kids, and Tony has heard me say this, my wife kids about the fact that I wear an invisible shield called a negativity shield around my head. And if somebody's negative, I smile, I nod my head, and I never listen to a word they say because I don't want it in my head. So I don't watch the news. I don't read the news. I read positive books every day, which is what I enjoy doing. This iPad is, to me, is wonderful because I can watch once or twice a day some of the great motivational speakers, you know, and I just try to fill my life full of things that I can have good thoughts on before I go to sleep, and that's how you control it. And I see when you said that you haven't watched the news, how much better you felt.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, keep negativity
feeling
out.
Yeah.
So I have a question that someone asked, and I know you're going to jump all over this. The agents who are waiting this out and not maintaining contact with their sphere, do you think they will be able to thrive again after this?
Yes, it's going to be slower for them. Okay, there's no question about it, because you know the 80-20 rule in business that we all would talk about as owners is pretty much gone. Now it's 90-10.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, 90% of the business is done by about 10% of the agents. So if they're part of that group that is waiting, I mean, what if this takes another 3 or 4 months before it starts to light up again? They might as well be getting a job at Walmart. Okay, so they're technically out of the business. Excuse me. I did a program in Calgary. This is always good when the speaker gets the hiccups. So I did a program in Calgary, Alberta last year, and this really handsome young guy walks up at the break. It was 10:30 in the morning. May I have lunch with you today? I said, well, of course. You know, well-dressed, nice-looking fellow. So we sit down at lunch. I said, what can I do for you? He said, listen to this, I've been in a slump. I said, okay, tell me about that. Well, I don't have any listings. I have no pendings, no sales. I have no income. And I said, well, how long has that been going on? For almost a year. I said, you're not in a slump. You're out of the business, for God's sakes. So why don't you just admit it? You got to go get a job.
Yeah.
Well, he said, I'm really offended by that. I said, I'm offended that I have to talk to you about you being in a slump for a year. I said, either go to work or get out of the business. And then I got up and went to the broker and told him to fire the guy. And the broker did. Okay. Well, you know, people say I'm not very patient. I have a lot of patients. They're in hospitals all over the world. Okay. So I'm a great believer that it is time for us to do something. Okay. And we need to do it now. If you're not doing anything today, in 3 months, it's going to be a lot worse. You're not going to do, you're going to have a hard time. Watch, re-energize, you know, you get yourself back in the business. So something simple. Call 2 or 3 past clients each day. Preview 4 or 5 properties online to get yourself back into what's for sale, what's not for sale. You know, look at your database, clean up your database to make sure you're talking to people that enjoy talking to you. You know, get yourself back into the business today, because if you don't, the future is not going to be fun.
And we have a captive audience. They're at home right now.
Ah, boy, no truer words, let me tell you.
And Mike, wouldn't you say that people that have that mindset, or agents that have that mindset, are the people that are creating the opportunity for the others that don't have that mindset?
Yes, 100%. I mean, that could be just written in stone and placed on every agent's desk. No question about it. So may I do something, if you guys are okay? I'd like to give the audience my email address, because when we're done today, if they have any questions, send them to me and I'll do my best to answer, usually within a couple hours. So let me just, if I may, it's very complicated. Mike.Ferry at MikeFerry.com. Because, you know, if they sometimes they don't want to ask questions because they're a little personal, and I understand that. And if they send them to me, I'll certainly respond as quickly as possible for them. So, Peter, any idea how many people you've got in terms of the whole outfit looking at this today?
Right now we have over 400 on Zoom. We usually end up with, we could end up with 10,000 viewers of this thing.
Wow, good for you guys. That is great.
That's not us, that's you, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike.
Peter, that's pretty good advertising for the company with all those people. Good for you.
And by the way, thanks for giving your email address out. That's huge. And I really recommend take advantage of that. You've got a 45-year-old veteran here, one of the best in the industry. And Mike, I want to thank you. Any closing thoughts for our Coldwell Banker family?
Well, you know, years ago, when the company was headquartered in Orange County, once a month, they brought all the new broker franchisees in for a week of meetings. And for several years, I was honored. They had me as the closing speaker on Friday afternoon. And I was such a treat because there would be 30 to 40 new Coldwell Banker brokers in this meeting. And they had that beautiful big Coldwell Banker banner behind me. And the old logo said Coldwell Banker, and then there was the dot. And then it said, expect the best. And some of you remember that logo. So I used to close my little short hour-and-a-half talk, Jason and Peter, by stopping and pointing to the sign. And I would say to the people in the audience, please tell me what the sign says. And they would all say, well, it says Coldwell Banker, expect the best. I said, no, it doesn't say that. Oh, no, we're reading the sign, Coldwell Banker, expect the best. I said, no, it says Coldwell Banker, period, expect the best. See, there's nothing after that period except for expect the best. That logo was in play for years in CB. The public expects the best from CB. They expect the best every single time. So let's make sure that we deliver to the public what our job really is. So Peter and Jason and Tony Smith and Corey Shepard and all of our longtime friends on this call, first of all, thank you. And I hope someday, Jason, I'm going to be able to stop in Victorville when I'm allowed to stop and give you a handshake and a high five.
I look forward to seeing you. And big thanks from the Coldwell Banker family for coming on, sharing your wisdom. Again, Mike.Ferry at MikeFerry.com. ask your questions, and thank you for joining us. This will be rebroadcasted soon, later. Peter will give a little bit more detail on that. Peter, thank you for your help today and joining us.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you,
Yeah,
Peter.
guys. Thank you guys so much. Mike, thank you for giving us a 45-minute mindset reset. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody.
I look forward to seeing you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.